what I love about this as well is I've got no idea where I'm going. And then you've got our next act on, and she's just there going, for fuck's sake, Dave, will you just get on with it, let me up on stage? Come on, come on. So would you like to see our next act? Please, would you put your hands together and welcome to the stage, Mary Mohan!
Good evening. I'm just microphone. Trying to go for a walk then. I'm just going to pick the hairs out of the microphone. Is that all right, Dave? Yeah. No, lovely. Well, good evening. My name's Mary, and I thought I would start this evening by telling you my most embarrassing moment, because we've all got one, haven't we? Yeah. Oh, you've definitely got one. Do you want to tell me what it is? No. I'll tell you later. I won't tell anybody else, I promise. So yeah, my most embarrassing moment, it happened, thank God, a very long time ago now. I have changed my name and moved several times since then, so they'll never find me. But I was at a residential work thing, and it's one of these things where you arrive kind of mid-afternoon, and you can go to your room, you unpack, you settle in, you kind of look through all the complimentary tea and coffee to find the hot chocolate sachet and see whether there are any decent biscuits. And then you started the weekend, it wasn't a weekend, not a weekend away anyway, you started the 2 nights with dinner together. All sitting round, getting to know one another properly, all that kind of thing. And I was there with this bunch of people that some of them I worked with, some of them I didn't really know, some of them I was trying to impress. And the hotel we were in was it was a place that obviously thought it was trying to be quite classy. And the reason I know this is that the dessert arrived with a glacé cherry on the top. Now I personally think glacé cherries are an abomination! Yeah, I have strong feelings about them. But equally, I didn't want to be that fussy person who left half my dinner on the side of my plate. So I did what I thought was the socially acceptable thing to do. And I have a word of advice for all of you. If you find yourself at a work do with a bunch of people you either don't really know very well, or you're trying to impress, and certainly you have to work with for the rest of your time there, don't ask at dinner if anybody wants your cherry. Very, very awkward. Very awkward. So, when I was 24, I got married. And it might surprise you all to know that I got married to a man, because I know what you're all thinking. You all took one look at me and you went, "But Mary, you're obviously a lesbian." And you'd be absolutely right. What you have to understand is that I grew up in Norfolk in the 1980s, and they hadn't invented lesbians back then. So how was I supposed to know, So there I was, in my mid-20s, married to a man, and as I'm sure you can understand, I started to realise some deep truths about myself. And one of them was this. Until that point in my life, I had no idea that there is a difference between a geek and a nerd. Do you know this? Yeah? We're going to do a quick straw poll, okay? If, like me, you had no idea that there was a difference between these two things, I want you to shout out, "May the force be with you." Don't be shy, come on, you can do it. If you think a geek and a nerd were the same thing, you're going to shout out, "May the force be with you."
May the force be with you.
Oh, the force is strong with you, okay? And if you knew all along that they are in two entirely different things, I would like you to shout out, "Live long and prosper." Thank you very much. Yeah. Now, neither of you did the hand signal. I'm very disappointed, but okay. So, yeah, I'm looking around the room. I want to say it's a safe space, okay? There is no judgment here at all. But those of you who very confidently shouted out, "May the force be with you," I reckon probably weren't bullied at school quite as much as those two. Does that sound fair? Yeah? Let me explain. You see, a geek is into all kinds of shit. They are what you might call a polymath, if you're being fancy. It makes them brilliant people to know. They know almost every single thing. They are great on a pub quiz team, so long as you've got somebody else who can come and pop and score, because they're clueless about that. They're quite useful people to know. I reckon about 42% of them know how to crochet, and at least 13% are learning how to make kombucha, because quite frankly, sourdough is completely 2019. And they read all kinds of stuff, okay? They're into all kinds of film and books. They'll read science fiction and fantasy fiction and maybe some horror if that's their thing, crime, historical novels, doesn't matter. As long as they enjoy it, they'll give it a go. They're really open. Now you might think that on the kind of nerd-geek hierarchy, this would make them the upper rung, but you would be wrong. Because the nerd sees these socially successful little butterflies and sees nothing but weakness. You see, the nerd is a true specialist, an expert in their field. And they know that the geek does not have the mental strength to cope with the tension that is Tuesday lunchtime chess club. Oh no. The geeks I knew, the nerds I knew, very different. The nerds I knew only read science fiction, okay? They wouldn't read anything else. They'd only watch science fiction on films, they'd only watch science fiction TV. And if you ever found yourself in the unfortunate position of being in a bookshop with one of them, they would complain bitterly that every single bookshop puts science fiction and fantasy into one section. Because, Mary, you do realise they are two entirely different genres, right? Well, I, personally, am an out and proud geek. Yes, I can crochet. No, I'm not learning how to make kombucha. Yet. And there I was, married to a man who was apparently far, far too cool to enjoy geeky things like Game of Thrones or Dungeons and Dragons and that kind of stuff. And so I closeted my happy, shiny, colourful, geeky side and adopted the apparently far, far superior approach to life of the nerd, which basically boils down to this. If it's popular, it's trash. Only ever consume things that demonstrate to the rest of the world just how much smarter you are than them. God, is it miserable? So I escaped by the only route that seemed obvious to me, and I came out as gay. I wasn't quite brave enough to do it all at once. I tried really, really hard to be bisexual. I tried so hard, and this is genuinely a true story and quite a poor reflection on me as a person, probably. I went to see a friend who I considered to be a successful bisexual person. And I went to see lovely Keith, and I asked for some advice. I said, how do I do this? And he gave me brilliant advice. I won't go into all of it, but he finished by saying one thing that I will never forget. He said, Mary, at the end of the day, sex is just sex. But God, I love cock. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was the moment I knew. And so I came out, and I was very proud to come out to my friends and family, and none of them were surprised. They took one look at me and they said, well, you always kind of were one of the lads, weren't you? And, I can see what they're saying. I've always had a tendency to wear brogues and suits and maybe the occasional tie. Even as a teenager in Norfolk, so much so that I'm pretty certain my late mum thought I might be trans. And bless her, she was completely cool with that. I'm not. I can't imagine personally why I would ever want to swap nice, soft, warm breasts for it's got veins. Right, back in the room, sorry, yeah, I had a moment there. It's been a long one, thank God. But I'm always very impressed by people who are very clear about their sense of identity, whatever that is. Take my wife, for example. She knew at the age of 4 that she liked women better than men. She couldn't. put a label on it at that age. To be fair, she was born and brought up in Bristol, so they probably did have a word for it in the 80s. But she was watching Calamity Jane with her family at the age of 4. And to this day, she has never forgiven Clam for ditching the best friend Katie and, in Catherine's words, marrying some sweaty, hairy cowboy. And she's never looked back. You know, which I benefited from. But me, one of the lads, I know what they're saying, but I've never been really comfortable adopting that, classic butch lesbian label. Don't get me wrong, I love me a power tool. Okay, I have 4 different sanders. All do completely different jobs, I use them all. But equally, I really love dressing up and I love glitter. So I've come to the conclusion that in some alternate universe, somewhere across, the multiverse, I was born as a boy, and I grew up to be a drag queen. So tonight is actually my wife and I's 11th anniversary of the first date. Very much. Yeah, I think I deserve that too. She's a very lucky. No, I always get this wrong. I'm a very lucky woman. Love you. And over the past, over the past, she isn't far away, she's just quite small. Over the past 11 years, we've come to realise that pretty much everybody in her family and in mine is neurospicy in some kind of way, except for her. Now, to give you some context for this, Catherine is an autism specialist teacher for Birmingham City Council. So she really knows her shit. And I think that means for her, living with us is a little bit like that woman in the 70s who lived with gorillas. But for us, she's the special needs kid. It's taken us 10 years to train her how to load the bottom rack of the dishwasher. I'm not even going to try the top rack. Too many variables, a little brain just goes pop. And I find myself sometimes watching her doing things. It could be anything. It could be, chopping carrots, folding something. It really doesn't matter. And I find myself thinking, why are you doing it like that? The wrong way. When you could be doing it properly. Why can't you do it? And every now and then, that voice doesn't stay inside my head. And I end up saying something. It goes something like this. It goes, my love, I love you. Don't take this the wrong way. Please don't take it. But why are you doing it like that? And at this point, she will do one of 2 things. She will either go, fuck off, which is fair, isn't it? I mean, let's be honest, it is fair. Or she will say something that quite frankly terrifies me. She will look at me, slightly bemused, and go, oh, I don't know, I wasn't thinking. I'm sorry, how does that work? Do you mean to tell me you don't have some kind of constant subroutine running in the back of your brain, analysing everything you do and say, telling you how much you've cocked up, what you need to do to put it right next? No. Apparently, neurotypicals don't have that. They have this thing called autopilot. And the reason this frightens me is that if you believe what we're led to believe, that neurotypicals are the majority of the world's population, maybe, that means they're running shit. And half the time, we haven't got a fucking clue what they're doing! How is it that, alright, admittedly, society is doing a pretty good job of tearing itself apart right now, but how come we've even got this far without dying out completely? Well, I've come to a few conclusions. I've decided that what we've managed to do is we've managed to stash covert neurospicy individuals in all the really important places. Like, for example, air traffic control. Do you need somebody who is going to concentrate incredibly hard in a tunnel vision kind of way to stop things flying into another altitude? get yourself an autistic. Preferably one who likes planes. If they like something else, it could be a disaster, but you know. And my personal favourite is crisis management. Okay, now crisis management is a really, really skilled thing, and you have to have a lot of experience to be able to do this, in which case you need somebody with ADHD. Because we live in constant crisis, and quite frankly, sorting yours out is a hell of a lot easier than dealing with our own. So, the next time you find yourself, no, I missed a bit, hang on, oh, no. And then I get myself thinking, you know, okay, so that's how we're still running now, but how did we ever end up leaving sub-Saharan Africa in the first place? You know, why did we ever stop sitting around that cosy campfire having a small talk? Which is horrific. And I think that's because all the ADHD kids go, what's over there? What happens if I do this? Does anybody actually know where those big cow things go after the rain? I'm going to follow them. And actually, when you think about it, how come we had a fire in the first place? Well, I've got a theory about that too. Because I think there is only one kind of person in this world who has the sticking power to sit there with two stones, banging them together. Admittedly, they were probably only doing it because it made a really cool sound. But eventually they got a spark and a flame, and I am absolutely confident that fire was brought to the human race courtesy of autism. So, now we get to the bit I'm going to get to before. The next time you find yourself, you know, dreading that family gathering because you don't want to get stuck in that corner with the one uncle who only wants to talk about his train set, or, you know, rolling your eyes because yet another comedian's talked about their ADHD diagnosis, or, you know, some random woman offers you her cherry at dinner, just remember, we're the reason you're all still alive. Thank you very much.